Okay, episode 14. Let's get this thing started. Let's make sure it can be heard.
Okay.
Alright, see if Twitch is coming after the commercial. And wait for people to start piling in. Nobody yet? Ah, there's a few coming in. Just gonna catch up at the beginning until we get a few more people into the stream before I start my spiel. Alright. Looks like Twitch is going. Everything's going. Looks like Facebook is in. Hey, what's up, Adib? How's it going, man? Alright, good. Alright, this is going to be probably a slow start after Thanksgiving, but let's go ahead and just give it a few. We'll kind of catch in and just kind of let me get warmed up before I start going on top of what we're going to be doing today. There we go, there's a spike, and it looks like Facebook is connecting. So, how's it going, Jafar? Thanks for showing up. So anybody from Facebook, it looks like Facebook's connected. Just want to make sure that it's all there. I see YouTube, and so far just YouTube. So hopefully that's working. Let me do a double check. Last time we had problems where Facebook was not connecting, and when I went to go check my stream, it didn't have anybody connected. It took away the stream, so I just wanted to double check, make sure it's there, and people are able to watch. Okay, looks like it's going. Alright, welcome to episode 14. My name is Briley. I'm going to be doing some ZBrush live demoing for everybody. You can find my work at www.bbriley.com, where you can find a lot of the different things I do. If you go to the home section, it kind of gives you the basics. I also have a shop where you can buy kits of mine. A Caterpillar kit, CEREBRUM, which is just sold out. I'm going to probably be bringing this guy back. A lot of people are asking me, so if you're interested, please drop me a line till I get him out. CEREBRUM and my shovel busts. I also have been selling some t-shirts for fun and some stickers, so if you're interested in. Hey, what's up, Frank? Thanks. Good. Okay, I see it. You can find my work in my work section. This is just a general of my mismatch of 2D/3D stuff. My 2D work, spanning more of my illustration, Disney days, concept, and so on. This is just some of the stuff I have up there, and then my 3D work is more towards high poly game, mixture of I pretty much do Disney to death kind of stuff in my styles, so you can find that. In my press, this is where I've been doing a lot of my ZBrush videos. In case you're interested, you can actually watch some interview where I did with Pixel Logic. Other things will be going up there, and my updated ZBrush lives at that point in time. And contact, you could always just contact me through my personal website if you want, and here's my Facebook, YouTube, all the different stuff as well. You can also find me at www.artstation.com/spark. I will be having stuff up there spanning everything. And then also you can find me on Instagram at instagram.com/bbarley_art. This is probably where I update the most pictures of what I'm doing, so on, friends, and so on. I'm also part of a great group called Grimm. Together We Are Grimm, with James Kane and Martin Verhoeven. This is where we're going to be selling our own kits from the three of us, kind of come together from ZBrush. There's stuff coming. There's information about us. You could also go into our shop, and we'll be putting up busts. And you could also find my work through there, if need be, the t-shirts and so on that we'll be hopefully adding with those guys. Click on our work, and I'll actually show all the various work that we've done, like James Kane, Martin Verhoeven, myself, and so on. We also have an Instagram at www.instagram.com /wearegrim, and you can see some of the different things we are doing. And James actually just had some stuff painted from his Lighthouse Keeper, and then this is Martin's new character. We're going to be doing 1/6 scale heads for Monsterpalooza, and we're also going to be doing some larger scale heads. And so there's a mixtures of stuff that we did. Here's the 3 kits together, in case you guys are interested, that we have available at the moment. Also, James just finished the Bluebeard. That will be coming, and we're going to be pricing that pretty soon. So if you're interested, check it out. People also asked about contacting me through Facebook. I am kind of fill up on my regular Facebook, but you can also find me at the Art of Briley, and I still have room for people to add in there. So I'm sorry if I'm not adding you to my Facebook. I just don't have any more room on my personal Brett Briley page. So just go ahead and add if you need to. So for today's lesson, we're going to continue with the scan data heads, but this time I'm going to take it to where I'm going to create a full character. I'm going to go through the whole process of kind of concepting from the head and then creating the character from that, because a lot of people have been asking me about how I go about the whole process. And so hopefully that will, you guys will enjoy that. So I might do it in 2-part episodes, this part and everything. Hey, what's up, Side Effects? How's it going, hip hop? Also, I've redesigned my layout for the stream, so hopefully this feels a lot better to you guys, because I got that new Cintiq 22U HD Wacom, and I'm still getting used to it, but at least I kind of did a few different things to kind of set up. You still can find my information at the bottom of the stream, along with my Spark and Briley and Grim over on the left-hand side still. So if you have any questions or if you need an update, you can check that out. So awesome to hear, Side Effect. I would love to see some of it. So hey, Pre-Drag, how's it going? So going off of the fact of the scan data, again, if I'm creating a concept of a character, it doesn't make a difference if it's going to be a whole bunch of characters or whatever. I always start from the head, the eyes. I try to keep, the same thought process across the board. It's just once you create some kind of direction that you like on the character, that's going to pull into everything on the head as well as the body. So I was talking to my son, since I didn't have him for Thanksgiving. I was like, what would be kind of cool to do? And he wants me to do a bee guy or whatever kind of stuff. Now, insects are great to kind of go off of. I'm going to probably do more towards the insect alien. I don't know where it's going to go. I'm going to probably play with the big head or whatever kind of stuff, because I just have a personal like for, to me, aliens seem like they're smart. So they're just going to have a lot of junk in their brain. So I'm going to play with that. But I'm going to pull in some of these, and I just wanted to show you some of my thought process. So it's just like, just because I am looking at a hornet doesn't mean I'm going to do exactly the whole body of the hornet. Just like I kitbash a lot of my pieces together, I might just start creating the face and pull in parts of the hornets. So I'm just going to take a look and not try to do the atypical, I'm creating a hornet. If I wanted to do a realistic looking hornet, then I'll do exactly what the form is. So yeah, I'm going to kind of play around, and then hopefully my son will like it, because that was going to be kind of for, for him to play off of. So, or like, hey buddy, I made a bug character for you. So to start off with, I'm just going to go to the typical head. Oh yeah, and females are hard, by the way, too. So it's because I like to actually make them all mean and gritty, and of course that's not very pretty. And again, I don't do pretty stuff. So most of the times I'll turn on dynamic. Depending on the dynamic, it usually starts out at 50 degree angle. 35 is kind of good. I want to have some perspective in there, but I don't want to have something that's so formed, and you can actually have it to align to the object and turned off. Sometimes this screws things off. If it goes off to where your character is kind of all really wonky, try to unify it and to kind of reset the transform and make sure it's all kind of good. Hey Stark, I'm not too sure what that whatever the link is. So I can't click on it, but so I'll keep on dynamic to kind of start off with it, and I'm going to make sure that my local is on and my local symmetry is on. So that is wherever I kind of click, I kind of focus over top of that. And so people have asked me just kind of describe a little bit more of what I've been doing. You can find through the episodes, and I apologize if I jump all over the place. I have a tendency to do that as well in real life. So what I did is I started from just the asymmetry head, and then I just made two symmetrical parts of it. I cut it in half, and I've done that in the previous one. I'm going to start with this guy, I think. I actually like this character head, and I've done a couple different creatures from it, or designs, characters from it. But I want to also show by doing this that just because you're working from an actor's head doesn't mean you have to be stuck with the same designs or thoughts. You can really get a wide range just on whatever direction, left to right, you decide to go. So I always make it to where I have a lot of different levels. I'm going to go ahead and make a duplicate and just toss that at the bottom so I can actually start, and I'll just start, and I'll just call it B head just to actually get going on. And I'll try to catch up on those side effects. Otherwise, just going to send me a personal link if you guys want me to look at something, just so I'm not kind of pulling up anything or accidentally hit some bad stuff. So most of my forms, I start with like just on the low, just kind of grabbing and pulling, figuring out what I want to do. Like I said, I'm going to probably go with a large head, but I'm going to go ahead and pull down the neck because I'm going to, when I'm starting to think about my creatures, this is probably going to pull into the body. Where is the body going to pick up? Most of the insect that I'm kind of looking over in the hornet, they have that really, that big head, thin axis connecting to the body. So I'm going to kind of start treating to where that is going to be, the neck is going to be kind of thin. I might kind of keep the ear, and I'm just going to start playing with the forms. And again, just kind of playing with how I want to deal with the nose. I was going to pull in the structure just a little bit. And this is just going to be a start of like, what do I really want to do on the character? Like the direction I'm kind of going to go. Like how big my head's going to go, how far my ears are going to go back. But before I do that, I think I'm going to, let's go ahead, and since I'm planning to pull a B into it, I'm going to stop this really quickly of where I'm at. And I'm just going to append a sphere. And I usually start with just spheres because I'm going to, I like to have the symmetry on there. And I don't know, I'm going to probably pull the, let's make this like to where this is the, I'm going to create the wasp or the head. So I'm going to, by looking at, this little thing like a part of the head. Now there's different types of wasps. These are hornets. These are Asian hornets and stuff. So as I'm looking at this, and if I'm looking at this head, I'm just going to kind of just pull in some of the design of the head and how I want it to go. Okay. And so it has the mandibles, and I'm not really concerned with how exact I'm getting. I just wanted to kind of create some of the form. I'm just sculpting in how big the eyes are and some of the general direction of how it's going to look. That's all. That's cool. Side effects. I'll be happy to just kind of check it out and we can talk about it. Shift D is to go down, D is to go up into your forms in there. And right now I have a couple levels on it. So once I have this, I'm going to kind of create the, let's go ahead and append, and you could always just duplicate this if you got the start and just kind of, duplicate this form, and then I could use this as the secondary part of the body. And then if I want to wipe out some of those details, you can quickly do that. If I'm making kind of like a little section, and like this might be where, some of the body, and we can figure out they got kind of like a little sections and they're connected. Okay, and let's just hide that head. And I might have made this head too big, so you can kind of start playing with, just the general, to get a quick B. It doesn't have to be precise, because I am just kit bashing something very quickly to kind of get an idea of what I'm going to like and stuff. Hey, how's it going, Oscar? Yeah, pre-drag, you can change everything. You can pretty much go into the preferences and change and set up. And I like to keep everything basic, just so when you guys are starting new, if there are people who just kind of, they come in and they just go right off and they don't have to deal with it. So, because it gets really confusing when you're watching people and they have like 15 different buttons and setups, and you're like, how the hell did they do that? So that's why I kind of keep it pretty similar. So I'm just going to use, and I'm making like the thorax of the bee, you know, the design. It gets a little bit thicker. And again, this is just a start of my character. I'm not really concerned. I'm just making a general shape to get some ideas of the bee. This is where I just kitbash, and I don't have to have this fully fleshed out, because if I do, and let's say I don't really like that direction, I pretty much have thrown out a lot of time. Although I can, you know, possibly use that for kitbashing later, but I'm just going to just quickly get these out. Okay, and so that's probably, you know, that's good enough to kind of give some idea to this bee. So I pretty much just did the main head. I'm not really worried about the connecting tissue and where this is going to go. As you can see right here, where the wing comes in is on the second part, so I sort of have this, and then, you know, so I might define this out to where this is where the wing section comes out at some point in time, and how it's connected. So I'm not really worried about that right now. Can you guys, okay, see, is it the setup better for you guys? Are you able to see a lot more from the last stream? So now that I have that head on here, this is where I might kind of go, okay, well, I want to kind of really, if I'm going to bring that in, and maybe without the head, I was just kind of creating a bee. And this is what I usually do, set up the object on the symmetry so I can actually just sculpt and make sure it's all good. And you can just move this around and play with this at some point in time. But when I bring in that head where I kind of place those, maybe it starts to become part to where he's like alien married a bee at some point in time, and whatever, and it's created off of a different breed, or, you know, race or whatever. So I'm going to start playing with that idea and that shapes of, you know, how I want those guys to kind of merge in together. And let me make this, and I'm going to kind of start playing with some of those different shapes that can kind of play off of it. So I want to do a big head, and it kind of maybe mutates a little bit into the body, so it kind of can help the brain. And I want to kind of keep that probably thin neck to play off of the thin thorax. Hip hop, is the head a reference or part of the total sculpt? You mean this guy right here? It's not part of the reference. I'm just kind of, I just started the bee. The only thing I'm looking at is the reference. This is off of that scan data head that I've been kind of using for a couple demos to kind of give people an idea of what's, you know, how you can kind of use this. I'm not really worried about the eyes quite yet, because I don't know if I'm going to be doing some of these big, you know, to echo this shape into it. So I'm debating on how I want to kind of intermix that one. I think I might kind of like, I'm going to go up one more level. Since I have those, I want to kind of pull some of the bee aspect into it. Maybe start to I need to, let's balance the head out. And I think I want to take out the eye was in this one. Remember, I kind of said a lot of times when you're dealing with these guys, you want to change up a few things. If I'm going to keep the mouth, even though I might kind of change the mouth a little bit to where I kind of maybe might have more mandible aspects to it to kind of give the bee look to it, or sharpen up the jaw to kind of play with these things. I think what I need to do is to take the nose, change the nose a little bit, but play with the eyes. So let me go ahead and append in some kind of sphere. And even though I have this usually in the symmetry, I'm going to kind of play with this a little bit and kind of think of maybe kind of play with the looking at the hornet's eye, guys. I want to sit there and probably just make it to where I bring in some of that. I don't want to do exact. And maybe kind of treat it like it's a wing or something, to where like the alien has adapted some of the look of the character or the B aspect of the character, but not quite. It's kind of changing it, so I'm going to I'm trying to make it kind of like an odd feel to it. I want to have an eye, but I don't want to do the normal eye, because again, I want to take this a little bit more into the alien abstract. Of course, when I do on that one side, you really need to bring back in something on the other side before I get too far, and then make sure to turn back on symmetry or you do it, because that is going to help you see the direction. And the reason I'm doing like something along the face here is because I want to fan out the depth, you know, the look of the head. I don't want it to just be a long head. I want to try to figure this out. Okay. So, Akash, what do you want to keep in mind when you're kind of making a portrait? I mean, it's up to you guys. You know, when you are making something, I mean, like right now, I'm just kind of trying to, I'm playing off the design. I'm playing off of a B, but I'm trying to force myself to think out of the box of how I might have that B. Instead of just doing a regular B, right now I'm going to, you know, because I just kind of started making a sphere and I popped it up towards the top of the head because, you know, I was just kind of trying to concentrate on the making a hornet quickly. I'm going to probably adapt that into the head at some point in time. So maybe it's, like I said, they, you ever seen The Fly, that movie The Fly, where it's kind of the human mixes with the, you know, the fly, and they're kind of mutated the parts, but I mean, he kind of adapted to where they were kind of, he grew into the fly, you know, because the fly was smaller. So let's just say that these are almost kind of like the aliens, almost just as important as the hornet, or the hornet's more equal to the aliens. So we're going to kind of like make the hornet maybe a little bit bigger into the design than that. So that's how I'm thinking about right there. But you can, whenever you're doing stuff, you could just try it, see what kind of works, and then go off the story. I know a couple of times people have jumped within the stream, kind of like added to the story, and that's changed my direction of what I was kind of doing. The reason I was kind of doing this, I'm not really liking the way that this head is kind of flopping back a little bit. So let's go ahead and I'm going to turn off my symmetry. Okay, my perspective is really kind of, I think that's what's throwing me off. Let's go and align to the object, or even turn off my, okay. This head is kind of shifting a little bit too much up. I'm not really liking that, so I'm going to kind of bring this back a little bit, and then when I do that, I'm going to rework these as well. Maybe I might bring the you know, this a little bit higher, guys, or still kind of keeping, maybe have them separated, looking at the reference that there's, you know, maybe a little separation, and this is kind of maybe hanging off the back of like a headdress, or even kind of like so. Let's bring these forward, and I'm going to use this scale. And if you guys have the gizmo kind of screwed up, hold on the Alt key, and you can actually move the gizmo around. So if you need to kind of straighten things out or turn, or however you want to do it. And make sure, just like I showed on the last one, do not crisscross those objects. Yeah, it won't be good. Okay, I'm kind of liking some of that direction, guys, so but I think I might need to go a little bit more exaggerated. I'm going to bring this neck back down. Oops. And I lost my asymmetry, so double check. I've shown you guys how to get that back if you ever kind of lose it. Okay. Alright, and I'm not... Let's fix this lip. Because he's kind of... looking kind of odd. And looking at the hornet kind of stuff, I'm just going to kind of play up on some of the shapes that I got kind of created in here to kind of, you know, separate out some of this alien chin, or define out some of the direction. I'm going to take away some of the human aspect of it, so I might thicken this up, and with the nose being kind of down a little bit lower, either I can bring up the nose a little bit or just mash that down in to where it's not as noticeable as a nose, or take this to where, you know, it starts to change the nose up and we're looking at like a little carapace kind of thing. I'm changing that eye socket, so we're bringing in a few different things to the eyes section. Let's bring that down. Okay, let's do this. I kind of like those, but let's see if it looks better. Like if maybe we have two of them, because again, it's an alien. We can, I don't know, treat it like maybe this is just a double wings or whatever from, oops, I have a little bit of layers on it, just to kind of make it a little bit, added that shape. I want to make it a little bit smaller though. So I'm trying to find a placement for it. I want to keep that sweep going. And again, I'm just having fun trying to find the form or the design. Maybe this is where now this becomes the where you see some of the eye come from it. So maybe these are just like the protected shell. As you know, the insects have like a carapace that splits apart, and that's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm kind of treating it like if this is the carapace, that's the wing kind of coming out or whatever, or maybe it's just going to be where I started to find out, you know, to give it a little bit of some of the eye. And it might be to the fact that I need to space these out just a little bit on the head. And let's concentrate more on just getting kind of like a ridge. So we're going to start kind of playing around where we're going to lead your eye up into where the hornet piece is, right? So okay. How's it going, Zeret? Zeret, however you want to pronounce it. So when we're doing this, we're trying to find a balance between sizes, shapes, forms. You want to kind of make sure that you're not kind of overpowering the design with one screaming in your face, but kind of giving subtleties. So think of it just like when you're creating different ideas for it. It's like, how do I want that to flow? What do I want to say on this character? What is the most important part of this character that you're working on? Because it's not going to be every single part. You have to have balances, and you have to have where your eye kind of will rest. So if I'm going to kind of, you know, say the mandibles, sorry guys, I'm not going to have mandibles here. I might have it up in here, or it doesn't necessarily, just because it's a bee doesn't mean that these mandibles have to be part of the character. They can actually just kind of like sweep down to where it's part of, you know, they've been mutated into the crown or whatever, and then we can, you know, design up to where they become kind of like the shape And again, with my designs, a lot of times I have a tendency to kind of mutate or blend together to kind of create the forms. So, Adib, what do you mean it's all stuck all the time? Are you talking about the stream is stuck? And now that I have that, I might go up one more level. I'm going to probably bring in some elements of where, let's bring in the nose. Let's bring in some of like this alien. I might kind of let's change that lip. Kind of looking off of some of the hornet guys and see what I want to do with it. So I'm trying to bring in some things that I see on the hornet, or some forms of, like, you can also squint when you're looking at reference and kind of go, what is, you know, what's working, what's not. Let's, you know, some of the shapes when they blend together, you might be able to see it. So let's say if I want to kind of, I see some separation of the shape of the body, so I'm going to bring in there. Let's have some dips, and this, let's bring up this nose part, and I'm going to probably bring in some more sharp aspects of it. Okay, now to blend it in. Okay, and I think these need to go a little bit bigger. And I'm going to set it, I'm going to turn this gizmo to kind of elongate them a little bit and bring them out. And I don't think I want to see, I'm going to change the shape a little bit to go here. So maybe some of it is underneath. I'm adapting from this. Okay, now he's looking down a little bit too much, so I'm going to kind of bring these back up. And I might bulge out that eyeball just a little bit to kind of okay. Scene. And even though the wasp doesn't, I'm looking at the back of the, where the wing section's kind of happening. I think, let's go ahead and bring that in a little bit more. Not worried about the neck. The ears, let's see. Let's make them a little bit thinner, smaller. Okay, and let's design some of from the neck. Let's get some visual flow to the back of the head for a moment. And I got and some of the shapes of the bee that I have in here I need to kind of bring down into the face, or I'm kind of looking at it, so I might bring up a couple of different levels, and not liking that turn back to the ear, so I'm going to turn it back down to here. It's just sweet. That kind of keeps the face, but I want to separate that jaw because I want the jaw back to here, so let's pump up the jaw. So we want ins and outs of the creature, so there's depth and flow throughout. How's it going, Square? So it kind of gives you a chance to kind of like push and play with, you know. So if I want this lip to kind of come out, this needs to be pushed back in. If I push back in, give give it some interesting, depth, and some of the pieces that kind of work with it. If I'm going to pull out this cheekbone to where it's almost kind of like a little flow or a section that kind of like bridges and holds this eye, and I think I don't want to see, so I'm going to give that. So let's pull that in. So when you're kind of trying to make some of your designs, just try pushing and pulling those shapes around and look for things that would be interesting, like how flat should that be, how is it starting to look from the top and around, and what I need to do. I think from the front he's a little bit too thick, because I want to kind of play off the hornet's head of the angle, how it triangulates out. So I'm going to thin this down a little bit and bring all this in to kind of, and those ears are definitely not my most important part. I want to have some subtlety towards a nod towards human or alien, or not all insect, so I need to, but I want to just pick that up in certain angles, and then have certain silhouette hits to where you turn it will point out and give me some interest. And so maybe the bottom of the neck, I want to define that, maybe pick up some spikes or whatever to, maybe not that much. So as I'm playing, and so you keep kind of saying what is going to work, what's not. The reason I'm playing with just pushing in this jawline is because I want to pop out certain parts of the design, and even though I popped it out, I might still need to pull that in. How far does this jaw kind of go out, and then is it going to, let's bring this out just a little bit more. Okay. So when you're playing with this, just kind of, maybe sharpen this up just a little. So okay, tool, save as. Let me go ahead and save. So I'm getting direction. Yeah, if you guys are, like I said, if you want me to look at your work, if you're kind of curious, I do portfolio reviews a lot just to kind of help out. So I'm just not going to do it during the stream, but maybe at some point in time I'll do like a Twitch, guys, and and by the way, my Twitch channel is Spark_B_Briley. A lot of people have been asking me that, so that's where I could probably down the line I'll do more channels that are dedicated to like portfolio reviews or talks or just general sculpt sessions. If you guys want, if you think that would be interesting to you, just go ahead and just I think you just add me or whatever, and then we can, when I get enough people, I'll just I'll start adding creating like a little channel to go and do that. So right now what I'm doing, I'm just kind of looking at some of the forms. So here I have some of this form, like let's say if this is going to be the outer, the ear, I might want to echo some of that little shape, but maybe I want to connect it into the jawline. So maybe the ear is, again, I'm trying to bring in some more alien. I mean, it's ear, people know it's ear. Oops. But it doesn't mean it has to be exactly like the ear. And then this is where it kind of connects back in, and it has like a little antenna connection or whatever. You can kind of pick up some of those shapes you're gonna have it. So hey, what's up, Kane? James Kane. That's the other partner of mine. That's in Grandma just did up. You need to check out his blueberry that he just had cast and stuff like that. So, and yeah, Pre-Drag sounds like he is a professional. He's kicking in a lot of stuff, and so far he's been right. That's how you can kind of tell the professionals from the amateurs. So I've been checking on it to do it. So, but he hasn't dropped me a line, so I don't know. He might be a friend that I know from the industry. I don't know, or I might have heard from him. That's the thing. That our industries are very small, and there's a lot of different industries. So I'm not trying to call you out, Pre-Drag. I was just saying, But James Kane I will call out because he is a friend, and I'll pick on him. So when you're trying to create your design, again, like I said, it's levels, it's balances of your design to where you need eyes, a rest for your eyes. So if I have a lot of detail, I need to sit there and have something that is backing it to kind of rest your eye to jump to the next detail. At least that's how I look at it with my designs. Like, I don't want to sit there and just have everything that's kind of busy. The reason I'm kind of doing some of these eyes, like the balances, is because these are going to be like rests of for the detail of the head. And if I'm doing step by step by step, I need to have a few things that I'm just kind of playing around with it. So let's go ahead, and now that I've got some of that going, and let's thin down the neck just a little bit more. And I'm going to get to the body here in a second. Today is just going to be kind of a quick sculpt, fleshing out, and I'm going to then so I'm going to try to get to most of the body today. So let's go ahead and do, I'm going to append, and let's just append a cylinder. I usually don't do cylinders. Oops. Let's go ahead and just make this small. And I'm doing off the asymmetry because it's not going to be, not really worried about it at the moment. But on here, let's go to transform. Let's activate the symmetry. My symmetry still should be on it, even though I moved it. But I'm going to go to radial, and I'm going to do the radial kind of, let's do 12 is fine. So you got to find the transform. I'm going to change it to the Y, and that's what I need. So I'm just going to quickly, I'm looking at the antenna, right? So I've got, this is just a quick way to make an interesting detail. So, because again, you're trying to, so if I'm going to make the antenna, I'm doing the shape. The reason I'm using radial is because it just saves a lot of time, and I can smooth. I'm going to go down the lower level. If I don't want 12, might be too much. Let's just say 4. Okay, make sure enter. Colossus, I'm looking at just the hornet. When I was kind of going off of this one, I was just trying to bring in a little bit of the design of it. So, and then looking at what you guys are saying. I'm also basing a lot of my design off of some of my initial forms, Colossus, like that scan head. And I'm going to be bringing in parts in this because I'm going to start playing off of my design. So it goes to it. Let me see. But yeah, I posted other stuff on James's stuff. You can find him through Grim. Also, you can find him at... and if you guys want to sit there and share your work, go ahead and share your Instagrams if you want. I'm more than fine with... this is not all about me. I'm just trying to share with you guys. So once I have that, I'm just going to reduce down to 4, just because I want to do some detail into this. If you're finding that it's not enough, you need to do a little bit more. Just go ahead and change it to 8. But let's say if I just want to bring in just a little bit of detail down the object and stuff. Okay. So if this is too tall, or if you're noticing, you need to kind of change it up. So I'm using that radial just to give myself just a little bit of detail, and then I'm going to kind of turn off my symmetry and size, and I'm going to take a look at this to kind of, I've put like a couple of antennas in here. So let's say I want to deal with one of my antennas, like how far do I want to sit there and go to get things going. These antennas might be a little bit too high for me, so if I'm going to have, usually the antennas on the Hornet looks like they just have the 2 front that kind of go up and down. So let's make that one first. But I'm not kind of really worried about how, and if you see the symmetry's off on it, so now I'm kind of off on my symmetry on this guy. So if I change anything, before I do anything to this guy, I want to kind of keep it uniform. I'm going to make a duplicate and place this guy, make him a little bit smaller. And these things, again, the initial size is going to be very important, like how far do I want that to go, what direction. So I want to go into my subtool and mirror on that axis to kind of get things going. And it's going through, and what it did is it went down to this different subtools and made them all good. So I'm going to delete that one before I get any further. I'm going to move these down just a little bit. I don't like how high they are, guys. And if I'm looking on the head, they're kind of just... Like if I want this to kind of go over the eye, like this is the brow of the eye, so let's detail out that. And then this might be... And I'm using the move tool a lot, guys, to just kind of push and pull. So... my antennas. And, you know, if you need solo, let's go ahead. I'm going to kind of just change some of the direction of the initial character that I had that I'm playing out from the 3D scan. As you can see right there, that's his forehead direction went across. I'm kind of going to where I want to kind of bring it down, more in the frown, and so I'm changing the directional lines and doing some detail work about to bring in, so I'm sort of echoing that hornet head, like the eye would be right in here, and so I'm kind of doing the around the eye. I'm going to flatten out some of this area because I want to bring in some hard surface or flat, sharp areas to define out. And I'm taking out that nose. So that way it can kind of start to play. And as you can see right there, I kind of, it looks, I want it to look hornet or waspish, you know what I mean? I want to kind of bring in some of that sharp detail. So I'm going to add just a little bit more definition to some of these areas to start helping my design. So because I have that area, that works. And then this where, you know, let's flatten out one side to make it a little bit sharp. And that's where that hornet will go. So, I mean, that thing will go. Now that I have that, I'm going to turn off my radio. Okay. I'm going to use inflat just a little bit. So, and since you guys are talking, I'm just going to go ahead and just sculpt for a little bit. If you want to answer any questions, just go ahead and pop in those questions into chat for me. Let's go ahead and home. Okay. All right. Once I have that kind of going, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate just because what I've worked off of. And again, don't crisscross, guys. It's like Ghostbusters with the stream. Never crisscross the streams. Make them a little bit smaller because if you, on the antennas, they start to degrade down. There's that little step up. And you can, by having them each kind of separated, you know, that's just going to help. Okay, and if your gizmo starts to kind of get off, kind of wonky, go ahead and just kind of fix it and change. All right, and another cool way to do it, right now these are going to be, as you notice, the same poly groups. You can quickly just go ahead and change, before I merge them all together, I'm just going to say group visible, and that will change the color. I'm holding down Alt and I'm jumping from my subtools, so group visible. Okay, so when I go to here, I'm going to go down, I'm going to say merge down. It's going to ask me, do you really want to do that? Yes, I want to do that. And it should keep your different subtools, which it did. Just want to make sure. Okay, so now that I have that, then I can just quickly say duplicate this object I'm holding down Alt to move the gizmo, and then I can move this up, shrink this down. Yeah. Okay. And I might want to kind of, as they go a little bit, I'm going to make them a little bit longer as they go smaller. Okay. And this end piece, I'm just gonna say if this is just my end, I'm just gonna go and let's make it maybe just like a little. Okay. Because it looks like in the end they kind of, I don't know, get a little bit fatter or whatever. So I'm just using the in-flat brush to kind of design that out. And then merge that down as you go through the different subtools. Now because I have that, then I could just call this antennae. Let's go tool, save as, just where I'm at. Override it. Okay, I'm curious to see what side effects is working on at some point in time. Side effects, I'll check it right after. So okay, now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and just make a duplicate of this guy because I have the full set of antennae, and then I'm just going to bring it up into the, you know, the real character from the head. So again, don't crisscross. Don't crisscross the streams. Bigger, and I'm going to stretch those out just a little bit because these might be the bigger antenna of the character. And again, we can kind of decide, you know, later in the design. You might come out and in. And then we can kind of then go back to that. And I treat it like it's, you know, that's where the, so he's kind of picking up the hornet, you know, body or whatever, and that's pretty much, so this design is carrying into that, into the head from our design. And it's kind of been mutated or built in, and hell, maybe we even do it to where he starts the hornet or whatever starts to pick some of that eye section. Never mind. Looks like he's sleeping on top of him. So, didn't like that. Yeah, you want to be careful about how, again, also don't, right now my total right here, guys, from what I'm seeing, looks like side effect is decimating quite a bit. And yeah, this subtools you have, a lot of times I'll merge my subtools together, just like I did the antenna, just so you don't have like tons of subtools separated in the parts. So all these antennas will actually, you know, come together as one part that I can sweep and change, and I have levels set up on it. Decimating will make it, having the levels allows ZBrush to actually go down and reduce, and it's better to kind of go, that's why I have the all low, all high. So a lot of times you could just say all low and save it, and it's a little bit better for ZBrush not to have some issues down the road. Be careful on the decimating, and if you don't need the detail, don't add the detail. So saying I have a 56 million poly character when it looks like you could just do it in 2 million. Make it 2 million. So it's not a contest to see whose computer can push the most, kind of thing. So let me go ahead and play with this. I mean, honestly, it's just like, because when you go to low poly, guys, I mean, I've had students where they kind of like say, yeah, my poly's, you know, this much, and you know, I didn't this much, and I was like, well, that's, you want less is more in the low poly. So I remember He's a friend now. I think I told the story before, but he was doing a tricycle, and he had it at 8,500 tries. And I was like, this could be reduced in half and look better. And then he didn't believe that, so I showed him within class, and I went through a class to kind of show how he could approach it. And it's pretty much just you're trying to, when it's dealing with low poly, you're trying to fake out as much of the high poly detail in the lowest form that it needs. And if you're dealing with characters, you want to make sure those loops are there. But same thing with like when you're doing your high poly character. The only reason I ever jump up on the higher level is because I might be doing PolyPaint or whatever, or if I'm missing that detail, I will take a look and I will actually kind of go, okay, how far are my polys being stretched and manipulated to where I need to just kind of redistribute those polys, right? I showed you guys last time you can go down into your geometry and where was it at? No, I can't find it. Where you can redistribute the brain fart. Where the hell is that? Projects. Nope. Oh well. Watch the last video. I can't remember. What it actually will do is just redistribute all those polys to make it better high poly, based on your high poly information, reprojecting your high poly mesh. Or you could just make a copy of it, decimate like I showed you, and just do ZBrush and just make it clean and just start from the beginning to reproject that detail back onto it. Having a whole bunch of decimated meshes. Decimation is just good for when you're sculpting side effects, or anybody that's listening, just kind of like, but if you notice, I don't have anything decimated yet. I want everything up on my level so I can actually, ZBrush handles it a lot better, so I'm kind of, be able to move around a lot better, but it's also just the fact that, decimation actually kind of will slowly start to bog down your machine, so, but yes, less is more. Yeah. There we go. Okay, pre-drag actually works in the industry, and he's a gamer. Yeah, here's the thing, guys. If I'm doing a high poly character and I have a 256 by 256 texture, I'm done. I don't have to do anymore. If I have this character and it's going to be an 8K textured character, I have to put in a lot more detail. The texture will really make a difference, and honestly, when I was working on Age of Empires, I worked on my characters like this, because that's what they were going to look like on screen. Okay, so yeah, I'm figuring you out, pre-jack. So when I was working on those games, like I said, I've worked on 29 games. Every single game is really the end result. What's the difference is going to be how much I was going to be able to do into that character. What poly limits, do I have alphas? Do I have all this other kind of stuff? It's sort of like when I do stuff with James and I and Martin are doing for Grimm. The character, if I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to print this sucker out for Monster Palooza, or some kind of, a kit. How thick do these antennas have to be? Am I going to be able to engineer them as one part, or how many parts do I need to separate? When you're designing your characters, your end result is your design. So you got to be very aware of it. So if I design this creature for movies, it's different than I will create him for games. So, this is a movie he's going to have for games, and how I'm going to have for 3D printing. Each one I will splinter. I will go in a different direction based on design of what that final object will be in a movie, games, or print. Because like for movies, I can sit there. That's why I make a joke that when I create a creature, he's kind of like, Bruce Banner for games, because I'm limited by my polygon size, my texture size, my alphas, and how many characters are going to be on screen, what the AI is, going to be able to handle, what is the engine going to be able to do. Bruce Banner. I get into movies, I can Hulk out. I have no restriction. I can have 8K maps. I can have it millions of polys, whatever the animator needs, and so on. That's where it goes. I don't have a good metaphor for the Hulk Bruce Banner for 3D printing. It's even worse because you have engineering that kind of comes into it. So you just gotta think about that. So, all right, enough about that. So I'm gonna just flesh out this design a little bit more. I'm going to kind of make this a little bit more bug-eye. Let's go ahead and divide it up a little bit more, because I want a little bit more detail. Because I want to define out the eye, maybe make some sharp points of how the character is going to look. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of give him some crow's feet. This new Cintiq is actually, I pick up and it's like, it's spinning me around. And I'm going to do some of the design that I was doing over on there, but this one's going to be flesh out, because what I could do is actually detail this one out and then copy it and make it to the back. I don't have to do all the detail twice. I just was trying to, I'm fleshing out just some ideas from it. So, okay. All right, so I have this kind of figured out, even though I kind of, looking at the hornet head, I might bring in a little bit more detail in here. So let's kind of figure out more of okay. So I'm going to get rid of some of these wrinkles. I'm going to kind of blend this to this head. And actually, James and I were just talking a little bit before the stream. He wants to learn some more of the game character kind of stuff, because he's phenomenal at the miniatures and the designs and sculptures and stuff like that. But it's a different direction. I know he's going to be able to do it, and I have to learn from Martin and James on rendering and doing my stuff up a little bit better. Honestly, those guys were actually kind of the reason I started doing the ZBrush to do polypainting, and because I hate to paint, but I don't know, I've had a lot of people tell me they actually like my painting better than my sculpts, so who knows. But what I probably will do is maybe I'll even, instead of just doing the stream for me, and maybe we'll make a Grim Chat Twitch stream where we just start kind of sharing or talking or looking at the portfolios and stuff, because I think that's the biggest thing, portfolio reviews, guys. As long as you listen to it, as long as you kind of, if I tell you, if I'm looking at your portfolio and I give you feedback, the best thing I can do is when you, like side effects, you asked a whole bunch of people their opinions. Whatever they're giving you, write it down. Take a piece of paper or a notebook, write it down. Whenever you meet professionals, I'll tell you what, having someone, you know, and James knows I'm going to bring this into like meeting like a woman at a bar kind of stuff. If you have a beer in front of you, you feel a little bit more comfortable when you're meeting someone face to face. That notepad, when you're talking to a professional, one, it shows respect, and I guarantee you that conversation will last 10 minutes longer than it ever would have without it. And I don't know how many times I've told students gems, you know, of information. Hey, this is how you can, you know, make a whole bunch of good connections, or you could do this one, and they don't ever pay attention or write it down. And then I'll ask them at the end, like, hey, do you remember anything I just told you? No. So it's kind of, or they'll remember some of it and just kind of remember the woman in the bar routine. Yes, I hate to say, I am sorry, I do that all the time. It's true. James is single too, so I'm trying to help him out. Help him out with life. But no, try to write down, because side effects, you got some feedback from, you know, Pre-Drag and James and others. Write it down to figure it out, and then just see what's kind of sticking out, because you'll start noticing a pattern. So, hey, how's it going, Pro? That's good to hear, man. Yeah, honestly, it's like well, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to not do it all, but just try to bring it down. And some people have been asking me to just design the character from start to scratch. Okay, so now that I've got that base on that character, you know, how it's kind of, you know, looking, let me start taking it towards the back, because to design the full character, I need to kind of start turning the character instead of just looking at the front. Like most of my streams, I've just been kind of dealing with not a lot of the back, because I've just been doing the front on. But with a full character, the character design, we are going to start bringing the back into it. We need to kind of make sure that the back is kind of be part of the design, is going to carry through, because it's very important. And we want to finish out the head design, because a lot of the stuff I do in the head, front and back, is going to carry to the front, chest, front, back, so on and so on. So yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. You guys could give me input on, like, hey, why don't you try this? And I might go, hey, nay. You don't have to bring in a lot of, if somebody just says it, because everybody will give you different input. What I'm saying, whenever you're talking to a whole bunch of people and you write it down, you're going to start noticing a pattern of consistency across those different people. And that's the thing I'm telling you to look for. Not necessarily like, because you know, I mean, you might have people tell you, you know, people you respect, try this. It might not be right for what you want to do. You as an artist, you need to express yourself. You know, James tells me all the time, do this. Some of them's right, some of them's wrong. No, I'm sorry. he doesn't give me too much input. It makes me sad. But if he did, there's going to be things that work right for me over top of what might work right in his design. He's got a very beautiful, whimsical design kind of stuff that if I tried taking a lot of his style into mine, I'm going to mess up some of what is kind of embedded in my style, you know what I mean, that will separate, and I'm going to start echoing some of his design. And that's part of our decisions on when we're going the left to right. That's what separates us as artists. But compositionally or something else might work that his different eye is going to give me some feedback. You can get great input from anybody's eyes that might not be as skilled or might not even be artists, and they just kind of see it. But having that down on paper and seeing, oh wow, everybody's saying something similar about this one direction, take that into point. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. So just be aware, because I've had a lot of people kind of like, hey, why don't you try this, and it could ruin the design, and they, you know, might get upset. Like, why don't you go that direction? Well, because it just wasn't working for the creature or whatever the thing I was kind of trying to do, or take a snapshot of it and you know do it again. So I'm going to start playing with some of my different flow to the back of the head, and I might kind of, he's got the bulbous area on the head here, so I might kind of want to try to, I'm looking at some of, I don't necessarily need to do another wasp type of thing, but maybe since I have this up here, and this is maybe going to be, you know, his stinger, but not necessarily a stinger. It could just be the fact that that's just part of his part of the head, to where it's almost like on that last character, or where I've had like a headdress, or just trying to carry that. Okay. So if I do that, I need to kind of set this to where I'm going to go down a little bit of level, because I want to carry some of this. So I think I might kind of actually have it to where you might have like a little hive, or a little, not necessarily some of the flaps, like it's almost kind of carrying some of that apparatus and design down throughout the character. And maybe, let's see, maybe he might have to where, usually the stinger comes out to here, but maybe I might flip that stinger up to where he can kind of fold, where he has it kind of protected a little bit. And then let's bring this neckline down. You know, just because this is the stinger, and I can say that that's part of the wasp, it doesn't, you know, that's where it goes. I don't necessarily have to say that that's all wasp. I might, you know, I could probably go to where this is more beetle, or it's kind of morphed, or, you know, that's part of his head, where it kind of, again, I'm creating this character. I'm adapting, I should say, this character. So let me go ahead and just append. I think I want to cone. I just like spheres. So let me just go to sphere. I'm going to shrink this down, make it super, so you can see what I'm doing, guys. And I'm going to turn on my symmetry. I'm actually going to do radial symmetry again. Transform, Y, radial symmetry, 4. And I'm just going to thin. And I'm thinning and moving Good enough. Thin it down, elongate it. Okay, there's my stinger. Okay, turn off radial symmetry. Make sure I didn't screw it up. Okay, oops. And let's make it to where, sort of there. Turn on my symmetry, radial off, X. So let's just kind of bend it up just a little bit. Okay. So there you go. I mean, I'm just kind of like, now that I have that into part of my design, you know, I could sit there and go, do I want a whole bunch of them, or do I want to, you know, just bring this in a little bit more, wrap it up part of the head, because maybe that just kind of flanges out, whatever. I'm making this up as I go. So once I do that, then I need to kind of figure out, like, okay, well, does this need to just go up a little bit higher, or out, you know, is it protecting, you know, like that flips up, and so who knows, maybe this kind of, we're starting to see that this is just going to open up, and it kind of opens up like a reverse mouth, and kind of like, you know, he flips his head back like a porcupine or whatever kind of BS. You can make this up. Okay, and I'm going to just sharpen this up because this is more the carapace now. Okay. Alright. Just fleshing out some of that design. Let's go ahead and back to the head. We're going to implement it. Alright. So if you're wondering, like, you know, like I said, like some of the differences of, you know, the different forms, just go to Edit, Subtool, if that's kind of bothering you. So that way it kind of merges that in a little bit better. So I can see. And then now that I've got that head a little bit more figured out, I'm going to really bring in this jaw, bring this out just a little bit more. So I have that shape. This is getting a little bit too awkward. Play with that. Bring in the ear. And again, a quick trick, guys, is like if it's too big, okay, then that way you can kind of say, yeah, I want to move it there. Okay, and then I can just, you know, use a part of the design to pop it in there. So, it's fun. Yeah, who knows what it's a hornbeat. I'm like I said, I'm playing off on this hip hop, and you guys are sorry, you're talking really quickly now. It's all over, so it's just like, just have fun, try to do different things, see what kind of works, and I usually have something phallic. I mean, some people say that it's a female part. So I mean, I have a tendency to kind of just play with certain flesh forms and just kind of I'm just swinging around. So maybe just a lot of stuff just looks like, you know, bad parts. But if you're too young, don't look. I'm sorry. But so now, like I said, I've got some of this fleshed out to where I can now start to go to the body. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, yeah. He's asking about like if you're on the forms. I've shown you guys where you just go down to the black and you look at the silhouette. That's pretty key. I'm sort of seeing that right there. I'm looking for the silhouette is king, so I'm having a tendency to just kind of do that with my eye. That's what I'm looking for as well. I'm looking around and seeing what kind of works, what doesn't. And a lot of times, guys, like when I'm just playing with these different shapes and I'm looking for it, I'll go back on the character and I'll kind of adapt and play around with the look. So, okay. let's come down here into his neck. So again, I have a lot of the design of where it comes thin and I'm kind of bulging out. Talking about silhouette, I'm kind of figure out what I want to do with this chest part. So I'm going to kind of probably make it to where it's kind of, and I've kind of gone off of a B. It's going to be kind of, I mean, there's going to be some parts, but now I'm kind of playing off of some more of my designs of where I want this guy to, what's going to work for him. Okay, and I'm just going to be careful about how much I actually pull. So let's go and bring in the sphere. Okay, the sphere is going to be my chest. Okay, shrink it down. All right, know how it's going to sit. Now again, make sure you got the symmetry on. Yeah, no. Shiflett brothers are phenomenal, great guys. They're actually here in Texas, pretty close to me. So you guys want to check it out. We've been posting up some stuff on there, but how fast? Yeah. And honestly, a lot of the traditional guys will actually kind of, just toss out stuff. And this is what I'm doing, digitally. I'm trying to show you guys that it's like, just toss things down, see what works, see what doesn't. Be aware you're gonna rip it apart a lot. Okay. So I'm going to kind of, see, I'm going to bring that chest out. And so I want to figure out the forms, like how it's going to be sitting on this object. What his back is going to look like. How long his abdomen is going to be. Well, I probably want to carry with like his body to be pretty long to balance out. Because he feels by his neck, he just feels like he's going to be very, very long. So usually I'll just take this out and kind of fill out like where's his chest pectoral regions are going to be, like if he's got tiny little pecs here, because again I'm playing with the forms, like maybe his pecs are going to be here. All right, quick. Anatomy, his ribs, okay, here. Abs, I'm going to carry the direction of my line that I initially have. Let's bring, oops, sculpt that in while thinking of the B's. Okay, his hips come out about here. Maybe he has a small ass. His shoulders, whatever. So think of like this design right here in the back. Maybe I picked it up for his shoulder blades. I reverse it. Okay. Let's go ahead and just reverse silhouette. Yada yada. Let's just start with like his delts, or however I want to do his delts, guys. Let me see what you guys are saying. Yeah, honestly, small studios, you got to be careful, guys. I mean, or look at your area too. So if you're in an area that has very limited area, whatever job possibilities, be careful. So, I mean, or make sure there's a Walmart just to sit there and be prepared to, in case things go down to while you find the next thing, or whatever your equivalency is. And 1 second, guys. Okay, just getting a lot of beeps. So when I'm doing this, I'm going to start taking a look at the back as I'm working this down, because I've got most of it kind of working already. And I am probably going to make this a little bit thin. Okay. Let's go ahead and tilt his body just a little bit, kind of like he might be leaning forward. And this is where his arm socket's going to be. So here's his collarbone. So I'm working off of the fact that he's got human parts, arms, but how I handle that will change. So let's go ahead and just really make this almost like these. I'm going to bring up some of the sections. So I want this kind of a little bit strip this down. Oh, I was just saying, be careful, Elphios, is like if whatever you're going for companies or whatever, take a look at also what's around in that area. So, because if you go to a place where it has only one company or one area of interest of where you want to go, and if that doesn't work out or that collapses or however it leaves you, fired, whatever, you have to move. And so just be aware, like if you create a family or whatever, that's the area you like. Where you get yourself all adjusted to it and set in that lifestyle, just to make sure that there's something else to, like for game companies, California is expensive as hell, but you find an area that has a lot of it and be aware of it. Or you go to Austin where there's like quite a bit, or my area, Texas, or so you're kind of you do your homework. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so there's my generalization of my character. So let's do pen sphere. And the reason I'm doing spheres, guys, is just because it's just something simple. I'm just trying to give you guys basic geometric shapes to kind of start with. Even though I started with the scan, I want you guys to kind of just realize you can make very easy forms with your geometric shapes, something simple, and then you got your anatomy and that I'm playing with right now, like when I'm going off of. So let's say his arms, here's his bicep, and I'm just fleshing it out. Subtool master, mirror, flip, symmetry. Because again, I want to sit there and see what I'm making, see how that kind of works. How is that going to, right now, the deltoid up here, and that's my limits of my anatomy, guys, the names. I don't remember the names. I just kind of like, that looks like it. That's what you want to do. You can learn everything. Just make sure you understand how it works and where, what goes where. You don't have to know. I swear I turned that off. Okay, and then you have the tricep. So I'm kind of using some, like I said, of the human parts. Doesn't mean that it has to be exactly, like I could have, some weird fleshy part kind of come over top of here that's not part of a human anatomy, but I've got some things built up in there that's based off of human anatomy that's going to kind of help me, okay? I think I want to sit there and bring his, now that I got that, I'm going to set that in. Let's give some hard surface area here. And play with that. Shape a little bit more. Okay. Kind of want to give him a little bit more of a hunch back. Okay. So I have those arms, and these are just the basis. I'm going to let's go ahead and just duplicate those suckers. Pull them down. Just make them super long. Let's try that. Like a praying mantis kind of thing, guys. Like it's let's angle them. So I'm just looking for the shape to change a little bit. Let's make this again, you can smooth them down. You can use a pinch tool to pull in stuff if I want to make it a little bit smaller. Okay, let's go down to levels to kind of smooth that out. Now I have the length. I don't want to do praying mantis type of arms here. So I might do, where I'm looking up on my design that I've kind of started. Let's pull in these eyes. Okay, let's pull in the shape to the front here to maybe that carries over to the protective section. Of the forearm, right? So we kind of are just, you know, that's the wrist. Let's kind of go to where there's the back elbow, do some there's a really long section. Let's separate this. Let's not like sit there and say that that's just going to be, maybe think of like a Venus flytrap, or to where let's see, you guys are going on. Let's see, by the way, oh yeah, he's talking about if I click on here, the dynamic right there. Yeah, I kind of keep dynamic on. I don't mess with that off. To be quite honest, I don't know. I kind of and the problem, be aware too, guys, that when you are doing character, that if your brush size, like let's say I'm at this full size right here at 1,000, right? Also be aware that your object might be super big, and so you can unify it before you start. Kind of make sure you have a good, because if you have a draw size that this is your maximum, even with dynamic on and off, then it just means your character is just phenomenally huge. So try to unify or make it to where it's a little bit easier to work with, because I like to, I don't want to have it where it's super huge, but I want to sit there and be able to kind of be able to change my size quite a bit. So, and if you notice, I flip around my sizes quite a bit while I'm playing around with it. Okay, so I'm going to make his upper connection here a little bit more to where it kind of, it's going to have a socket. And I'm going to create my tendons and separation a little bit. Okay, I add some more detail because I just want to figure out some of my different design. And I'm just drawing in some tendons, some forearm muscles, and then I'm going to carry over some of that design from here. And that could change right there. Now this might still be a little bit, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger and a little bit longer. Let's bring him over here a little bit. So playing around with the size a lot is going to be key. You have to kind of, like, some things are going to work, some things are not. So so now that I have that in there, I now can figure out the body, the legs. Now I could just borrow from this, but I'm just going to start with let's do a sphere again. And let's just attach. Oops. Let's make them on the sphere. Okay. Probably want a long leg. And I'm thinking more to where, because again, I can't do like this is the bottom of his foot, because then he's going to be dragging his arms around there. So I want to kind of make his legs kind of imposing to start being able to, because I have a lot of thin areas. I have a lot of things that are kind of So I need to give a shape. Let's give him a little bit more of an ass part here. And again, to make sure that the design is kind of working, you need to have both sides to really make this work out. Now I want to turn off to make sure I'm not connecting on that section, right? So, and now I'm looking at the hornet, kind of the legs. I don't know if I necessarily want to sit there and have that to be exact. Maybe I want to do a little bit more towards a human leg. I don't know why that's doing that. It's driving me crazy. Like maybe, but I have this angle, I have this angle, so let's go ahead and do this angle as well to play with that shape, to carry it off onto the design farther down. And let's wrap it up around, let's make it a little bit thinner. And I definitely want to go towards like in the body, so let's echo that shape. I'm going to use my pinch and I'm going to bring this in just a little bit and thin down the legs. Okay. Alright, so now that I have that little shape, I even have like the hips, which is fine that they're connecting. I'm going to, let's give them some crotch, and let's give them some back here to where we're kind of like, not necessarily really pincher, but let's go ahead and connect them to where it's going to set. So like how, I'm looking for some kind of, so let's give them a little bit more of like this ball joint hip from that section, okay? And you can also kind of, let's go ahead and divide this one more time to give it a little bit more of a, okay. So he's got something to where it's going to hold. Don't necessarily have to give him alien anatomy. Let's go ahead and hide these forearms. I'm going to angle these out just a little bit more. Well, yeah, Adib, this is where it's kind of, because I'm bringing some human elements back into it, the alien aspects to it. I know I'm going to sit there and say that this guy is going to be, he has B parts, B forms, and I'm probably going to go back into this character and add a lot more sharp, flat, hard surface, carapace kind of feel to him to help bring him back into it. But it's like right now, I need to sit there and balance. I'm thinking that, you know, he needs height. He needs something that kind of balances his length. So I don't know if I really want to, let's go ahead and, let's see the back of the thigh. So let's bring in some like muscle groups. So maybe he's got the thigh group where he's kind of, and he's kind of separated. This is more the ball joint. We're just going to kind of work. Let's bring this in. Where it's going to connect into, maybe that this is just going to be, you know, like some of the flesh that kind of intermixes, and so maybe this might be a little bit fatter to where his butt, to where like this goes a little bit sharper. And let's turn this up and out, and let's kind of make this to where he could actually have some flesh, even though it's kind of intermixed with some of the carapace. Well, yeah, that's what you guys were asking for, to try to do a little bit more of a full character. So I'm just going off of, this is pretty much how I handle it if I'm going to go off of designing, and it's all just kind of carrying off of a few different things that I've done up onto the head to see how I kind of like it, because it's like I said, I'm going to have, so I want to bring in some muscles. And the thing is, guys, like when you're doing this, I'm using anatomy. I'm using, like, you know, there's nothing in the bee that I'm looking at that I could sit there and really pull more towards, because I have, you know, and I'm going away from that. But so what I'm going to do is just start bringing in a little bit more anatomy. So I know he's alien. So this is where I'm saying I'm kind of taking the bee aspect to him and seeing how that's going to work. And honestly, it's like, to me, I might say that to get him a little bit more bee-like, or the size of, you know, this might be his, the head size range, and then that's going to be the size of the mid part. So, you know, maybe I need to make these a little bit bigger. So I'm not using the exact pieces from them, but I'm using the size relation of a hornet. Okay, it doesn't have to be the exact, you know, oh, this looks like a hornet, because I'm going off of it, but I could use parts of the different dissection of the body, the thorax, and the butt, whatever the hell you call them. You know, that's going to be what I'm looking for. And then I'm going to start looking for flow in the design of my silhouette. You know, like I said, this is the leading the eye around and down, and, you know, from the side profile, and I want to, you know, then take that to where I carry some of that flow, you know. So let's see, so if I bulk that up, this might be the same type of, you know, here's the tip of the hip joints right here. So I might sharpen those up a little bit and bring them in and then bring them back out, just sort of like I did with that piece right there. But I'm just changing the direction, I'm changing the look. And I remember watching 300, and there was a section in it where they had and this is really how, you know, how they did it kind of stuff. And there was a section where they were talking about a rock, and they built one rock, and they actually just changed and filmed it from 5 different directions, and it was 5 different rocks. So that's what you have to do with your thinking of your design. A lot of times it can be the same piece, and how you place it or how you change it in the direction will be a different piece entirely. So let's say this muscle goes down. One, it saves you time, and if you can make it work, make it work. So, okay. So let's say those are my thigh pieces. That's my arm. Okay, I might have it to where the arm end and the thigh, because like the bee has the main part of the leg is kind of longer than the second, sort of like the first antenna part is a little bit longer. And I don't want to do exactly, I don't want to do like a heavy thorax. I'm going to make kind of like, this is the kneecap. And let's make it a little bit more, it's a little bit more fleshy. Now that I got that piece in there, and that's the kind of the design back. But maybe I'll pick up to where this is a separate part. It splits kind of like the B section, and then this is going to be, let's flatten that out and make a connector like it's going to be setting up in there. This is where the kind of the joint will go up. Okay. So make it a little bit thinner. Okay, so let's go ahead and append what, guys? A sphere. That's right. Spheres are your friends. But let's take the length of the arm, shrink it down. Let's put it into the joint. Let's go straight down here. And let me go back to the radial. Activate symmetry. Let's move this in a little bit. Strength, length. Okay. Turn off that. Make it a little bit thinner. Mirror the sucker. Angle a little bit back so you step it up, but not necessarily too much, but just body. Turn off radial. Okay. And let's make it to where this is. So like maybe his foot is kind of to where and reverse an antenna. So we have the antenna like the pieces and the parts. So let's just say that he has a section, and we have, you know, goes a little bit thin. Let's make it to where he has a calf. Okay, so he's got kind of like a calf joint section. It's a little bit long. Remember how we got some of the long tendons and it's leading down. Okay. And there's not much to the front necessarily. It's kind of like we got some of the kneecap. So straight. Let's get some flat areas in there. And if I really want to accentuate this, let me go ahead and just mask out this part, because I like those calves. I want to kind of there we go. Hey, Brandon Kikowski. Hey, buddy, how's it going? Good old friend from id days. Phenomenal concept, guys. You should look up his stuff. Sweet. I've been trying to get in touch with him forever. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving, buddy. But seriously, look him up. There's anytime that if I have like awesome artists that just are impressive as hell, take the time to please follow them, check them out, because it's worth your time. I might not know what the hell I'm doing, but I know good things when I see it. I'm making a horn bee type thing, Brandon, in case you didn't catch it from the beginning. So now that I've elongated that, I'm going to kind of, so think of these are the ankles, but just like in the antennas, how they are broken up for them to kind of be bent past a certain point, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to kind of just say, let's go ahead and just append another sphere. Damn these spheres. But again, they're very useful, and it's a geometric shape that you guys can kind of use pretty quickly and not be overly like, what do I use? Does it have to be perfect? It's a sphere. Good, buddy. I love to catch up. So let's go ahead and just make this. So this is the antenna. So again, I'm going to kind of carry some of that features of an antenna where it bows out. Okay. And I'm just making a smaller version. So again, these are just quick forms just to test out. I'm not concerned too much about detail at the moment. I'm concerned about form, function, how it's going to work. And just like I'm trying to figure out how will this animate? How will this, oops, make sure we have symmetry on. That's all I'm concerned about at the moment. And while I'm creating the design, or I'm trying to make up the history or the story of it, the story is also part of the fact, like, how is it going to work? Okay, so let's duplicate. Now, I could sit there and go, how many of these antennas, like, I can count on my antenna. So let's say I want to carry just like the size, whatever the hornet top, 3 parts to the the head, thorax, but I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could do 6, or I could do, well, I don't want to have him be super long, or do I want to add some of this detail back into, here I could sit there and say, yeah, it's going to be, I can fake in a different section on there, or I could say half of 6 is 3, as far as I know. I could say, because I'm taking the form and I'm dividing it, and so, because usually you have, it's either going to be equal or unequal into your character design. So you don't want to have like 4 parts to where you have 3, or it starts going off to odd, even kind of stuff, because usually nature is going to stay consistent through your design. It's not necessarily 100% true, but it's like, it's just, you can give rhyme and reason for your creatures in design. So I'm going to say, he has 6 antenna parts, and I know he has them too because I copied that piece. So I'm going to just say I'm going to duplicate this sucker, and I'm just going to bring this down. So I'm going to say if this is going to be 1, 2, 3 antenna parts, I'm going to elongate this just a little bit longer and thicken it up a little bit because I'm going to kind of give it more towards the foot sides, so it's just like in a real foot. It's going to go ankle thinner, foot cap taller. Okay. And then I'm going to probably just do with the 3 and then just have the end cap. So how do I want to end this guy? Do I want to sit there and just... I don't want to just have an empty cup like that. I'm going to probably bring this down a little bit more. Let's give him more of a back heel. Again, I'm not kind of concerned about... I'm making this guy up. So, I mean, he could be, for all I know, to where... let's make him hoof-like. Okay, almost like a... Oops. That's when it became... Yeah, high heels. In a way. In a way, they're going to be high heels. They're almost... because I want to kind of give it to where, like, how is he going to stand? He needs something to kind of, you know, hold up a big form of the body that he has. And you can kind of, not as sexy as high heels, but, you know, let's give him something to where he's going to be standing flat. No, I don't have to actually make it to where it's exactly flat or, you know, it works. I'm just looking for... Okay. Now, by adding all those parts, he's gotten way past the design of where I initially cut off. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to start playing with my sizes and how they're going to look together. So I'm going to shrink these down just a little bit because they got way over what I was expecting. Okay, that's feeling better. So I could do this to where I kind of, once I have these leg parts, again, they're going to have separate. So let's just, if I'm going to merge them down, you're going to be very aware that the division sets have to be consistent. So if there's 3 on here, there's no divisions on here, or here, or here. That means when I break down that division, it's going to lose the 3 different divisions. So either I have to come back to here, which these are 16, and divide up 3 times. Oops. Okay. So when I take this object, the leg, and let's say I want to connect those pieces together, as long as I have those divisions separate, you know, the same, then I can actually reduce back down the same. Now you could use reproject subdivision if I ever collapse, but of course I don't know if you guys have found it to where you kind of tried to reproject or reconstruct, I'm sorry, subdivision. What happens is that it will scream at you, it says there's tries involved and you're stuck. Okay, so even though one part probably could be reduced down because you merge those 2 pieces down at different levels, that's where you start to have problems. So if I say merge down, and it's, I'm going to keep on you kind of want to always keep this on just to double check your part. So now if I take a look, then I actually have those 3 parts. They're all different divisions. So then I can just easily select those, you know, that section, and then continue with, you know, my different sizes together as the part. Okay. So, but now that this is all together, I'm going to just shrink these down a little bit, making them thinner. Okay. And I still want those, I want those really thin, maybe just a little bit taller. Okay. So now that's looking better. And the size, and depends on, this still might be too long. So this is where you can actually, if you're having trouble like just kind of piecing these things together and kind of go what's working, what's not, just go ahead and make a duplicate of where that was at, and then just go to your gizmo. You can make it like, let's say up on, what do they look like a little bit fatter, or what do they look like a little bit smaller, moved in a little bit or out a little bit to where it's kind of holding part. Or do I need to come up here and say I need to thicken up some of the anatomy here in my character? Does it have a little bow, you know, of like so? Okay. And then once you have that in your design, you're kind of like, okay, he's kind of like a cowboy standing or whatever. You know, I can actually just kind of detail the design, not that much. And connect, and then I can say, okay, is that looking a little bit better? And then you could just make sure the eyeball's off this one. I'm just clicking back on and forth on these two. So I can say, which one do I like better? You know, and then go, okay, that made these a little bit thinner, longer, thicker up here. I don't like these anymore. Delete, and you can continue with this one, or you can keep them and then just kind of, you know, however you want from your design. All right. Okay, I'm running out of BS, guys. But no, it's now that I've got most of the form and some of, you know, the things are going. Now, to me, he kind of looks odd with just cup hands. So let's go ahead and sit there and figure out, well, he definitely needs some kind of hands. What kind of hands? Is it going to be 5? Is it going to be 2? Because, again, a bee doesn't have, well, they got little pincher kind of stuff on, like, little fingers, so it's 2 from what I can tell. But again, how far do I want to bring in the bee to the alien? Or human, you know what I mean, to make it kind of feel like an odd alien. So again, we're going to append subtool, and I'm going to make sure that this is on. And if you guys have any questions, please just drop me a line, or just comment anytime. Why am I doing this, or whichever. Okay, so I'm going to make the hand right now. So let's say the hand is going to connect into here. Maybe it just sits up in to this little section. I'm going to kind of bring out the thumb. Now you can use Sculptress on this one. I've already kind of divided up. Well, I haven't. So this is where you can actually, you know, if you're worried about Sculptress, you can actually add things pretty quickly. So this is kind of great if you just want to not do the Dynamesh or the parts or bring it in. You can kind of just say, you know, I want to push and pull certain things. So let's say I'm going to do, oops, got a little bit too thin. Let me bulge out this area. Let's do some thumbs. Make it a little bit sharp. Okay. Yeah, pro. Actually, I came from a traditional background. I've been in drawing since I was 4. And I actually was an illustrator, and then I jumped over to animation for Disney, and then was on my way there, and then wasn't able to, there was a freeze, and then I went to an E3 and got into games thinking, like, yeah, that's where I want to go, and I've been in that since, for about 20 years now. So, man, that's powerful. If you're doing strokes, guys, and it's getting really too much, go ahead and just turn off or turn down the Z symmetry, Z intensity. That will help you a lot. Okay, So let's kind of go. I have the thumb in there, and that's kind of want to carry. I'm looking at the pinchers. Do I want to sit there and have 3, 4, 2? Let's try to do 2, just because if I need to, I can kind of add in 1 in between. So I'm going to space them out. Okay, and I'm going to kind of use my move tool. Still have my stuff on. Okay. And you could also do it to where if you're worried about creating like I'm not a big fan of making fingers and stuff like that. It's like, so what I would probably also do is like I would just take to where I just create 1 finger and then just kind of connect it. But right now I'm analyzing my direction I want to go for, like how many fingers and stuff. So I'm just playing with this to work. So you know what? Let's go ahead and twist this a little bit. Let's make it a little bit smaller, longer. Okay. Now this is going to be, I don't want it to be, I want the thumb probably to be the one that's a little bit more important. So I'm going to thin these down just a little bit, maybe thicken this up. I could also do it this way where I reversed scale up the thumb. Okay. Right now, side effects, I'm kind of like side effects is asking about the secondary forms and all kind of stuff, right? I'm working in my main form right now and my secondary forms, meaning that I'm just looking for the silhouette, what's going to work. I'm not putting a lot of detail into like how, here's my fingernails, or this is where, this knuckle is and stuff. I'm doing some of that, but not too much to where I'm concerned about the way it looks. I'm just concerned about how it's going to function first, the design, like how is this going to intermix with that, or how thick are these fingers going to be. And then once I get the feel for that, then I'll kind of go, okay, I'm going to add in the tertiary detail, the final details. And so I'm going to do the subtool. Let's get on the other side. Okay. Symmetry. What I'll probably do, guys, as if I get time, I'll try to do a lot more of the detail, because you guys have seen me do the detail a little bit more in these characters, and so I can get to the posing and polypainting as well at off time, unless you guys want to watch the whole process of this guy. Because where are we at in time right now? Okay, it's 3 o'clock, so I've been hour on the head, hour on the body. Let me see. Hey Square, I worked with Baj Sinj and Matt. Good guys. I actually worked on through freelance and stuff, so I wasn't on site. So, but they were great. The work was really cool, and the game was pretty awesome. So I was able to help them out just for like a little bit. So it was fun. So I'm going to get out of, I think I'm going to keep it with 2. Because we got kind of like, it feels like pinchers. And you can actually just sit there and kind of go, again, testing it out to see how, like maybe want them a little bit longer to where you kind of see them underneath. Almost like a earwig type butt kind of thing going on. So it has some insect feel towards it. And I want to get out of that. Now, I've had an opportunity to work with a lot of great companies and people. Freelance is a little bit harder on some aspects because you just kind of, you're not there on site, so you can't really, things change on the fly pretty quickly. So that's the only thing, and you usually don't have access to the engine that they use. So it's sort of like, I kind of say it's like texturing blind. And you're never going to be as good as the guys that are there on site that have been in the engine and know how to use it, ins and outs. So, okay, so now I'm going to put in some tertiary detail of where I want the cuts to be for the fingers. You know, maybe get a little bit more of a fingernail that I sort of talked about. Yeah, no, Bosch is a great guy, and I actually met him a long time ago when I did Massive Black, years and years ago. The industry is really small, guys, so just be very aware that, you know, you're going to meet a lot of people or talk to a lot of people that you possibly can work with or know your stuff. Especially in the character side, it's a lot smaller field of character guys. And those competitions, Square, are great to do. That's how you meet a lot of other talent, especially around the world. Like, it's pretty cool that you guys are all over the place, different time zones and stuff like that. Because I'm in the Colony, Texas, which is about an hour above Dallas, Texas. A lot of you guys are from total opposite ends of the world and staying up really late, which I appreciate for those guys are staying up to watch this. So, well, I mean, I appreciate all you guys watching, but you know what I'm talking about. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning for you guys. That's harsh. I wouldn't even stay up 2 o'clock in the morning for my own streams. I'm sleeping. So, so I'm detailing out the hands a little bit. Now, the details that I'm putting into this finger, like I'm doing it twice. So if this finger is the same as this one, this is where I was talking about I'd just do one finger and I'd make, you know, the forefinger, middle finger, you know, so on, just to kind of, that way the consistency is the same and I'm doing less work. And you know, because you can use the thumb, you know, for the fingers if you want, although the thumb will change. So all right, so let's go back into some of the detailing part from it. I carried up a lot of the, I'm going to go head up back to the head. So just like I went for the head down, I'm going to do the same thing. The design is always going to carry, at least from my part, how I like to do it. It's going to carry from the head down. Things I do in the head, I'm going to detail the head out a little bit more, bring that detail down, and do a couple swipes while I'm feeling out the character. I think looking at this one, I like most of what I have. I'm probably going to make these a little bit, I don't know if I like the length. I've got a lot of long into this one, so I might kind of just shrink this down just a little bit. Hey, Ben. Ben Vicar. I met Ben at ZBrush a couple years ago. We were both in the ZBrush challenge or whatever. He's from India, phenomenal artist as well. You need to check out his work. Like I said, it's pretty cool that a lot of people drop in and you guys get a chance to kind of check out other artists' work. Because honestly, sometimes you don't know about them until you might not be part of the Facebook or whatever. That's the beautiful thing about, you know, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, all kind of stuff. It really allows you to see people, meet people. So I'm going to go back into the face details. I'm going to look back at that hornet again just to sit there and see about my different designs. I'm going to step up. This is where I start going into the tertiary details that you guys were wondering about. He's a little bit, because he is more B, You're welcome, Adib. I appreciate you looking, man. I want to probably, he's alien, but he's B. So again, insects are more solid, carapace, flow. So if I'm going to do that design, usually I'm probably going to carry a lot of that harder area surface towards the top and make the bottom section to where it be a little bit more flesh. So I'm going to decide what's my inner and outer flesh, basically. What is the two, like usually with the character you want to kind of have a couple different material hits so it gives visual interest. Like if I just do a like you think of Red Skull, okay? He's just a human red, right? His outfit is the different material hit or the different visual interest, you know, that really separates him, that then that red skin pops because you have that different material hit. If he was just a naked red guy, it's just a naked red guy, not as impressive. So that's where you have to take a look at your characters, try to find things that can actually separate your visual interest, pop certain areas for the eye to follow and land on, and then that will help your design quite a bit. I'm thinking I'm going to kind of taking a look at this guy now that I've got the body in. Sorry, that's my dog dying. He's going through his head is I've got his shoulder space to where I don't feel like his head is as important. It's kind of like going a little bit too much of the triangle. So I'm going to take a look at maybe I have that head. Okay, so take a look at this, the wasp, right? See how it's kind of a point and it goes really out to the side. If you take a look carefully, my head design is going in that same direction, echoing the head of a wasp or a hornet, okay? I don't know if you guys were noticing that I was kind of trying to do that. I'm going to make it a little bit more towards that direction to pull in the bee feel towards it, okay? So like this is the one, like if you take a look at, this is the eye, okay, section. So I'm going to probably reduce this down a little bit. So you see that shape of that head? That's the hornet's head, okay? So now that I do that, so if I look, that's going to kind of help. Let's bring this down. So that kind of makes it to where that's part of the connector. I've got to figure out why it keeps sticking. I even turned off the floater direction. It's not twisted. Okay. All right. I think that helps balance that head a little bit more, maybe. Okay. Let's look at from the top. I'm going to pull it back. And again, I'm looking for form. And all right. Gonna kind of drape a few skin details and a few things to kind of pop some depth into that. All right. And so all I'm doing is just trying to make that balance to the rest of the body. Now that I've done that, I need to kind of fix a few different things that were kind of, you know, that I initially had it. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. I'm going to make that a little bit thinner. And since I made that larger and a little bit longer, I might have to sit there and make that a little bit larger and a little bit longer. Because if I'm treating this like, you know, a wing carapace or whatever that's going to be over top of... Now, I don't necessarily want to sit there and make a wing. I'm just kind of trying to make an interesting oddity to the eye, or you know, something that kind of makes it a little bit, like I said, the alien. Okay. Okay, that works a little bit better with the balance. And then now that I've got this, maybe I might even bring this in just a little bit more, because I don't necessarily think it has to. Just because that went in doesn't mean that this one has to. I mean, that one went back a little bit further, it doesn't mean that this one does as well. So let's go ahead and make this. And I'm taking a look at the detail out there. Now I could, let's go ahead and see if I want to drop an eyeball in there, or just kind of make it to where it's sort of, I'm trying to make them look sinister, you know, kind of a little bit. Yeah, possibly, James. I don't know if anybody's even digging it, so I'm gonna kind of soften this one. I'm going to go up, and then this is where I'm going to kind of set the eyeball in. I might bring in a couple, a little bit more sharp points. To kind of bring that, so if you notice, as soon as I go a little bit to where I have that flat surface, so I change that feel from a flesh to a carapace, then I can actually sharpen up a few of these edges and designs and change the way that it's going to work. So then you start seeing, oops, sometimes that line will kind of go. So I might add like a little bit more of a air holes, or you know, like tree trunk, or yeah, those little beetle holes that it's almost like bone. So I'm actually adding a little bit more of like a marrow hit or a feel towards it to sharpen that up. Smooth. Okay, let's bring that a little bit more. Okay, so now that I'm going to kind of bring this even thinner in. Oh, swarm. Good joke. James is British, if you didn't recognize the humor. And when he swears, it's hilarious. Cracks me up. Okay, so I'm going to define out, let's give them kind of like more like a, because in the bee, so let's just treat like these as like the mandibles are going to be happening out of this one. So let's connect, like you might have I don't know if I'm going to put teeth in this guy, whatever I want to do, but it looks like the mandibles might set up in there, and they don't necessarily have to be big. Again, I'm changing the feel to it, but it looks like the bee has like a little bit of, you know, let's make them a little more sneering. And this is the tertiary details that will start to separate the look and the feel towards them. So this is where I'm starting to flesh out my design or my thought process on how he might kind of look. And these matter. But the thing is, guys, if you don't have a good base or secondary forms to kind of help push the direction that you want, then it's gonna, all the tertiary details just gonna be for naught. It's just gonna be noise. So I really hate how that doesn't. So that's what I'm looking at for right now. I'm just trying to find some things that I think will work to bring out my initial design. Like maybe I need to bring, yeah, that helps. Bring these a little bit wider. Start to get that B feel towards where it's kind of, as I widened that. I'm not really trying to twist. I've got to figure that out. Maybe not necessarily horns. Okay. So I'm going to kind of go for the side here. Let's go ahead and play with some of the different shapes a little bit more. So again, I need some hard, solid areas for your eye to kind of rest. Not a lot of detail, but it's going to help push the eye here. I think I might try, let's go ahead and, right now I'm at 1 million. This should be able to have enough of my information to detail out this section of the eye. So let's go ahead and see. And this is side effects. This is where you just kind of try to put in that detail and see if it works. Don't just keep dividing until you kind of, you know, you're overboard. Okay. And let's append a square. I'm just joking, guys. Let's append a sphere. Placement. Now, this one is, he's a little bit longer. Like I push that iris really long. So you might not see all of it, I might just see some of it. And see if that even makes any kind of sense to pull that in there. So let's go ahead and do that. Subtool master, let's mirror. Okay, and let's just go ahead and give it a quick RGB, something different so I can actually see, you know, what I'm working with. So make sure it's on material, color, fill that object, turn that off. Let's come back to my, I'm just going to divide it just a little bit. Okay. So I'm just kind of trying to change the shape of that. And once I have that, then let's go ahead and pull whatever I already had to try to get a shape that I kind of like. So I'm using inflat to kind of define the bottom eyelid a little bit more. And then I'm gonna get the top eyelid. Okay. All right. I'm going to keep it for the moment. I'm going to take a look at it and just see from a design point what I like, what I don't. You could have this guy closing the eyes, but I think what I need to do is to flesh out a few more parts of the main section, like how it's going to look. I'm going to take out a lot of the skin, because even if I'm going to have this guy be a little bit more towards the flesh down here, he's not human in the sense of, you know, an old man. I mean, I use some of the different designs, like his flesh, and I use that to kind of pull, but it doesn't mean I have to use every single part that I started with. Okay. I'm going to probably make this sneer him up a little bit, and let's kind of make this give him a bottom lip. not necessarily like a bottom lip, maybe it's just more of, you know, it's pursed a little bit. Okay. And this is going to be kind of like the split of the mandible. So here, let's make it to where it's kind of like he's got this separated jaw. So let's sharpen up a few of these points to make it kind of more bee-like, more bone, which then again helps push some of that alien design. And I'm going to use this jaw as my pinchers. So maybe that's where these pinchers kind of come into, or feels like pinchers, like that's the sharp point. And then let's just sharpen that. Oops. I'm going to do some crack lines or some bones. You need to have flesh sometimes if they're going to be poking through to make it believable. So let's get that. Hey Slinky, how's it going? See, from Israel. There you go. That's a good distance. Welcome, and I'm glad it's helping you out. So this is number 14, and actually, guys, I probably will be slowing down a little bit on some of these, and I probably might be doing a little bit more of my streams on Twitch to try a couple different things. So you can, like I said, you can find me on Twitch at Spark_B_Briley. Just go ahead and add me. Like I said, I've been talking to a couple other guys about doing a few other type of things to try to get a little bit more. Although James doesn't like to sometimes talk in public kind of stuff, but he's good at it. All right, I think these are going to be my mandibles. Let's make some sharp angular lines to sharpen those up. Okay. Now I'm just doing, again, sharp angular lines to make it feel more sharp, less flesh in certain areas. Again, organic or fleshy bits are a little bit more flow. Anything that's like sharp or hard, or you know, you don't want to have round edges. You want to have sharp edges to really kind of to really push out the softness of fleshy bits. That will really help your design. I'm not really liking so I don't know if you guys saw, it's like I had a second to take a look. I rested. I didn't play with my design. I mean, I was looking at the eyes and was playing with my design, so then that kind of helped once I started fleshing out that. And then now I need to, the mouth is feeling too wide, I guess. So again, I want to kind of, this is where I'm going to kind of keep pushing and pulling in. I've got those mandibles out, but maybe I don't want to have them so, that's not my interesting part. It's sort of part of the design, but it's not the main section of what I want to do. I might want to kind of push these in to pull out this antenna feel of this ear. You know, it's kind of coming up part of the design, and then I want to kind of just add like some more swoop to lead your eye around and pick it back up here. You know, just it's like a little roller coaster, the best way I can kind of explain it. Okay. And then this down here will be more of my fleshy alien part, to where I start picking up some of the skin, some of the bumps of the skin that, you know, you can add fleshy bits. what's underneath. So, and you could even do where you have separation to where this is the hard part, you know, and then you have some of the flesh just kind of happen up underneath there. Okay. I think he's close. Okay. I dig him with no eyes. Because maybe he doesn't have any eyes because he is he has all of his, he's got a couple different antennas, you know, that's kind of really helping push how he finds his prey. And these antennas are just a little bit too big. So even though I've defined out those forms, guys, I still can kind of play with them a little bit to see what works. All right. So let's flesh out this design. Any kind of questions, guys? Looks like we lost quite a few people, so might be stopping this one and just pick it back up next week to kind of finish off this form in detail. Okay, so let's finish some more of the detail. No, I'm not really using polygroups right now. I mean, I'm just flipping, I'm using subtools and flipping back and around to kind of, you know, play with my detail. Gotcha, reject. Okay. Well, that's good here. I just want to make sure you guys are not bored. So I'm going to kind of start detailing out some of the flesh that kind of comes down. So I want it to kind of like, it feels like he's kind of dragging and kind of like the weight to balance off some of the heavy of the head. I want to sit there and have some extra parts that are kind of just, you know, really there bunching up. And so this is where, like, I'm going to accentuate the form. I'm going to bring up some, like, you know, this is where the flesh is going to hit. So it's like where the carapace, and the carapace is going to be the back. So again, you're going to have the weak area of the flesh, be in the front, and maybe he's going to have certain parts that are going to kick it, but I'm probably going to have more of my, just like the top of the head, I'm going to have more of the carapace, kind of, these pieces will probably have little pieces floating off the back of it. And then I'm probably going to take these parts and I'm going to kind of make these just like the, I don't know, just hanging fleshy bits that kind of, you know, is more of the alien section. Not necessarily, I don't know. Like, he doesn't have breasts, but he has a very, like a, it's almost like a cowl section. And it's going to kind of, I want to lead your eye up and down into the design, so I need to have the neck really, again, I'm looking for almost like directional arrows going down, look down this way. And then I want to have, when those kind of lead your eye down, you need something that kind of is going to pick up your design. Either it's going to be color when we get to it that pops your eye over into a different direction, or the design flow entirely. Like, do I need to have, maybe he has like a lower Adam's apple, and, you know, this is the, so maybe his thing kind of, you know, again, I'm echoing this shape. I'm flipping the direction, but also picking it up. So maybe he has like something to where, like, this is where he also breathes or whatever, or, you know, who knows. It doesn't always need to make sense. Yeah, I'll definitely retop of this guy and stuff. I mean, if you guys want me, however you want me to take it as far, I guess, you know, as long as I don't get bored. once I get bored and I'm moving on to a different character, I'm sorry guys. But yeah, if I had to show you like you're talking about just like making the ZBrush, or you're talking about towards like the low poly aspect of final in-game asset, because that's a whole different direction. And I actually told ZBrush that I'd be more doing ZBrush. So that's why I was like saying if I was doing a Twitch down the line or whatever, then that's where I feel like I could do a few different things to help show you guys all the things that go involved in creating a character from high poly all the way through, even though I use ZBrush for almost all my stuff. So okay, so let's say he's got kind of like some collarbone fleshy bits that kind of swooping up. So again, I'm kind of taking the collarbone, throwing them up. Some general human anatomy and a different way to kind of, you know, make them alien. And I want to lead your eye down to the front of the chest. So what I'm probably going to do is stop while it saves. Split. And this is where the retopo side effects would kind of come into. I'm sorry, Slinky, to kind of, you know, help you carry up some of the detail, because again, you see that, see when I go down a level, see how that in flat stuff made a bunch of messy crap happen. So okay, let's go to the arms. I think I might bring the arms up, and just like because I detailed out some of like this hip area here, so I think we're going to kind of start detailing out this sucker a little bit. So I want to kind of, since I've got a lot of this fleshy part here, I'm going to probably make this, again, the carapace part, this little section. So let's say this little section right here is going to be the hard carapace. Okay, so let's just sharpen it up a little bit. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll go over top of like cleaning this guy up at some point in time. The problem is like what I might, when I show that kind of stuff, what happens is it kind of takes some computing sometimes, like, and your computer will kind of slow down. Okay, so if I bring that forward, let's go ahead and make the pectoral muscles, but again, you know, this is where maybe the separate of the flesh, or there's some fleshy bits kind of coming hanging down to meeting with the ribs, and then this little pectoral muscle kind of encases, it pushes out. So I mean, this is where you can start doing like a little bit more sharp to a little bit more insect, sharp points insect, make it horns to demon, or a little bit rounder for beetle. You know, I mean, it's all those different forms are going to start to play into, it's going to lead you a different direction. So I'm going to try to feel out what I want to do with this guy. If I echo this shape right down here, that's going to pick up, and it can be subtle, guys, but it's sort of like it's going to kind of start giving the character consistency of the design. Okay, so it's like, why is it working, and or not even noticing that's kind of why I did that, or you know, because it just feels like he was born that way. All right, I think I might drop this down. Okay, so let's go back to the deltoid area. All right, so if I'm going to, I want to kind of detail out some of this muscle. So here's my tricep. Okay. Let's say I want to detail that tricep. All I'm doing is just inflat guys to bulb it out a little bit, smooth it down, and then clay. And push and pull. No. Well, think of a caterpillar, you know what I mean, the repetitional forms, or a snake, you know what I mean, repetitional form. As long as you think the design is working, Squarey, or as long as you kind of like make sure that you don't think it's overdone, then you know, I'm not gonna, like, if I was doing a caterpillar or a snake or whatever, or a vertebrae, you know what I mean, that's repetition of form, you know what I mean, it gets smaller, you can change up, but it's pretty much visually hitting you with similar forms. If you need a break, or if you notice what I'm trying to do in my designs, I'm just trying to give like a little bit of rest to the eye, or I'm trying to just kind of like design the character, just, you know, bring in some things that, like I said, it's I'm flipping directions, I'm flipping how to use a piece, you know, like I said, my son just asked me like to do a bee, okay, so I looked at a hornet, and then I brought in the bee to the top, that you know, I could even merge it to where you don't even really see that bee at some point in time, and once you get color, it could just be a black stripe and you don't even see that bee anymore, but those designs start picking off on it, and then I just started adding pieces that kind of go off on it now, and I've been using the different weights and forms to kind of touch upon a bee, but I'm not, you know, kind of making exactly this is a bee. Bringing as much repetition as you think is going to work is the final. I mean, it's you guys as artists, even if you're learning, you're kind of, I mean, I've seen 5-year-olds create phenomenal monsters, scary shit, you know what I mean? And I think you guys have actually probably seen some people where they take some young kid's design and kind of, you know, create from it. That is awesome, you know. It doesn't mean that the 5-year-old doesn't have the ability to kind of, you know, sometimes flesh out the believability of that form, but they can have a great, still imagination can kind of come from that. So even if you guys are just starting and the detail might not be as fleshed out as what I'm doing here, you still can have that story, you can still have that creature, you can still do a lot of stuff. I mean, Pixar, when they were leaving Disney, they on a napkin they created, you know, Little Nemo and Toy Story and everything just by like little tiny sketches, fleshed out their whole things, and that was their 3 major hits. So it doesn't take much to kind of make something happen. I mean, just because I flesh out this guy doesn't mean he's going to be a good character. That's why I tried to do a lot of that detailing and making sure I'm happy with it before I take it to this level. There's actually the ZBrush episode guys that I hate the characters. I am not happy with a lot of them. But if I go back to them and use parts from them or flesh them out more, they could be successful. So right now I'm kind of building out the, like if these are the pecs ish. This is the ribs that are kind of coming out. I have some of that. Now I could, like I say, if I want to do the repetition of form, okay, there's a repetition of form right there. This is the eye, and that's enough. I mean, I don't have to, I think that still could work. I can change it up a little bit. Okay. And then that makes it kind of an insect. So right there, by you asking that, Squarey, changed my design, because I didn't think about it until you mentioned, like, hey, what about that? Okay. If it doesn't work, start over. All right. So I'm going to kind of bring in, now I've got a lot of your eye, like if, and again, if you like, almost here's an eyeball, like here's a, if I do a mouth, you start to see a demon. I'm going to start flipping those forms down. And going to reverse and detail out some of this flesh. I'm not too sure what it, like, if I want to have a carapace, if I want to sit there and you know, have a hip bone, or maybe this is the section. I just know that if this is going to be the ribs, I want to carry this up into the back. And I'm doing straight lines to kind of get a little bit more of a hard surface feel to it. And that will help me give a little bit more, like, this is the flesh leading down to the eye. I don't necessarily think I want to give them testicles, but I do want to give them to where it's, this might be the carapace. Okay. Trying to do some kind of hip without making it look like a hip. Let's see what time it is. I'll go for about another 15 minutes, and I'm gonna hold it for next week, and we can just flesh out the form and then kind of pose and do the detail. So let me go back up to here. So as I'm kind of doing the arms, leading your eye down, here is the, remember what I said, the bicep. So I'm going to kind of give a little bit more weight to where if I look at here, I want to kind of bring this in a little bit, not make too much of a sack, so like it's heavy. So I'm trying to make the design to where it looks like it's going to work and how it's going to meet the elbow and the parts. Okay. Do I want that? I don't think I want that quite yet. I don't mind this sticking out a little bit, the deltoid being over. Can you show us the expose button before you finish? Why is Twitch gonna explode, PJ? You want that thing? There you go. Sorry, is that what you, there you go. That better? Boom. I should have actually just saved before I did that. I don't usually. So right now I'm at 260,000. I'm going to go up one more level because I'm going to start trying to bring in a few different fleshy parts, bits and details. You're welcome. And so I'm just still playing with my form. So if this is, when I'm playing with my form, I'm going to go back down to my levels because I don't need that all that detail. So I probably want to make this just a little bit to where his deltoids are going to be a little bit bigger. And again, I want to kind of have like thin to thick parts, and then because this is this triceps, I'm going to dig up in here a little bit. All right, and I have this back tricep. Usually, like this muscle should be going over to the like, crisscross over top it to the underneath. So let's correct that real quick. I mean, even though he's alien, I can kind of BS it, and I'm going to bring out this over top for the elbow part. Okay. Alright, so now I'm just playing with the look and shape of the hello. So maybe since I have this here, I'm doing form, moving around. I'm looking for valleys and pitches and form and flow of the character again, because I'm trying to pick up certain things from them. Like I might have taken that a little bit too much, because I might want to have, again, here's the repetition that you were asking about. Like if this is too much, I don't need to exactly echo everything else, but that might just kind of cause too much of a pull away from my eye for this one, because I want to accentuate this. And so now I'm looking at this piece and this piece, whereas that piece, that piece, and that piece were kind of conflicting against each other in my view. So that's why I'm going to decide to take it back out. So you can just kind of keep playing to see what's working and what's not. I think looking at this, I don't like this straight up of that, so I need to probably pull this flesh out and around. Give it a little bit more volume. If you need more volume, just go ahead and hide. I'm using the pull to get more flesh. Okay, that way I can use this to kind of, because remember what I said, I want it to kind of look like it's like pooling down, and there's a lot of weight over top of these pieces. And if I look at the back here, I need to I want to look like it's kind of swooping down, bunching up, and then the form is kind of being stopped by the carapace. It's almost like if this wasn't there, you'd kind of fall out. And then there's like a lip. So this is like his tortoise shell. And I'll have some flesh, or like that. That could be another piece. So I figure out the design here. So on the back, let's do a little bit more spiky, just a little, to kind of help with. I really want to, like I said, this is all flesh. I need to have a few things to make it sharp. This one I need to, that's looking too much like it's flesh. And that's because of the lines. So let's go ahead and take out some of that flesh look to it and make it a little sharper. So I'm using the trim dynamic brush to kind of just sharpen those points. And I needed to decide, like, you know, if I'm going to separate this to where this is almost kind of like where you have a little pincher, you know, I may need to then add the flesh up underneath here, you know, to help that design be a little bit more, here's a separation. Okay. And at some point in time I pulled that way down there, did not mean to, so let's fix that. So go down to your lowest levels and just blend, go up, blend, until you kind of pull that back up. And I'm not too sure what I did there, so let's just go ahead and redesign. Okay. Okay. I think I was trying to do like a little separation to kind of show what was like a little mouth or whatever. That's where this kind of came from. This is maybe where they get acne in the back of their head. Don't know. And then he's got some shell parts to start to play into carapace feel. And that's where the fleshy bit kind of comes out. So again, even though I'm kind of like I thought I had a good direction, or what I did there, that one thing kind of took it away. So now I'm changing that. And I've had things where things have blown up and totally changed my direction of where I couldn't remember what the hell I did, so I kind of created something. So I can't remember what was better anyway. But let's give them a little bit of extra detail to the back of the head, because again, we are creating a character from all different directions, and it has to be, I mean, let's just say if the character's just, you know, you're in a game and he's just walking from behind the whole time, you know, and you're kind of like, you didn't do shit on your design, you know, you never see the front, or he looks at you for a second and walks around, you know, that's all you see. You have to be aware of the full 360 degrees, how the character is going to look from the top down. I remember designing the imp for Doom, and that thing was all up on the walls and the ceilings and stuff like that, so we were very aware of how it looked. And one of the concept guys, Elliot Lilly, another great artist, whatever, we were talking about all that different direction of what you would see, because he was working on another character with me, and then and so I always wanted to add ribs, but flip the ribs and throw it out the back, like he grew in wrong. And but that's where I finally got that design through, because it was like, you see him and you saw all the silhouettes, all these spikes and ribs come out. So but I think he's getting there. I think he's kind of and again, the color is going to be a big difference, or like how I'm going to print this out, or what I'm going to take it to. You know what? Now that I've punched out that arms there, I'm talking shells. Let's just kind of see what that looks like a little bit. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it, James. Yeah, just kind of trying to get some of the design, like, and getting a little bit closer on the top here. So let me see, it's 4 o'clock. Okay, I think 3 hours sculpting. I think that's pretty good. So let me go ahead, guys. I'll just save from here. We'll pick this up for next episode, and I'll probably see about doing it in a couple of weeks. I don't know, or maybe I might just do try to do until this guy's finished, and then after this guy's done, I'll kind of move a little bit slower, or because I got a few things I want to do. We got some things coming up, for Grimm as well. Let's just do a shot from trying to make him look cool. I'll turn him this way. I think he started from that. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah, I think this guy, I think, has got a good direction. I'll take a look at him and I'll see. Maybe I might flesh him out a little bit more, so I can start taking to the final detail part. Play with the forms, what you guys will kind of see, and then I'll pick them up for next week. I'll do next week, and then just after I get this character done for you guys, then I'll kind of slow down a little bit, or try to do some Twitch streams in the meantime for those who want to learn about games or a couple of different directions and stuff. Yeah. Champion thing. Now that you know, pre-drag or pro said that about the ping pong, I might have to change those hands. We'll see. Again, somebody will say one comment. I might just not listen to pro and just kind of keep it. But it's just like, you're kind of like, hey, that looks like that. I see a smiley face, or I see a face and gone. You have to really change the design. So yeah, but let's go ahead and pick it up. If anything, I might just, like I said, finish this out a little bit more, so in the next episode I can do the high detail, tertiary detail, posing, coloring within the time. Because I don't think he needs, you don't need to see the progression of me playing with forms and everything. I think I got that pretty fleshed out from here. And then we will go from there. So, but thanks again, guys, for showing up. I totally appreciate it. And I guess we'll see you soon. Drop me a line anytime, bbriley.com. Check us out at We Are Grimm as well. All the stuff at the beginning. We definitely appreciate the support. All right, guys. Thanks much. Take care.